is Stephen Tolman, and I am the Green Party candidate for the Scarborough Rouge River by-election. Canada has an aging population. So much of our future politics is going to concern providing all services, all manners of services to our seniors. One of the ways Green Party is going to try and give more services to seniors is by changing the way our cities are zoned. We want to have multiple types of housing zones within a community so that elderly people can afford to live in good neighborhoods and they can afford to have any kind of residential housing that they need for themselves. We want to have more commercial and industrial spaces in the community so that the elderly can go shopping easily and they can, if need be, they can work within the community at a short distance. We want to have also more dense cities so that public transportation can be provided to elderly people a lot more effectively. Another way we're trying to deliver more and better services to the community is by putting an emphasis, or to the seniors, is to put an emphasis on the community itself. We want to increase the local community activities so that the elderly can participate and become engaged with the community itself. We want to have local retail outlets so that they can shop at a short distance, walkable distance, and we want to have community healthcare centers, and so that will enable the elderly people to have healthcare closer to home. They don't have to go as far, and it's a more community feel, so they'll feel more comfortable in the hospitals themselves. We would want to, the Green Party would reform the healthcare system dramatically because our current system is not working. We have to realize that our health is dependent on our environment. 50% of healthcare problems in Ontario are preventable, but only 4% of the provincial budget is allocated to prevention. The Green Party wants to include education about nutrition and about proper exercise in schools so that we can prevent children from becoming obese, and then that will also in turn prevent them from becoming obese in the future. We want to have more support for physical activities within the communities, like local sports teams. And we want to help citizens deal with stress, because stress is a number one, it diminishes health among people considerably. The Green Party would help pay for all these initiatives by introducing a green tax on such things as junk food, which adversely affect our health. We also want to have more integration of health services and professionals. We want to reorganize how the medical professions work with each other so that more professionals can actually apply services to people that need them. We also want to create a centralized health record. That way everybody's health records, no matter what kind of service provider they have, will be available to the doctors, which will give everybody a more comprehensive picture of your health when you see them. The environment is something that our society does not understand. We do not understand that a poor environment will negatively impact our health, and we do not understand that nature can be an extremely productive tool for us. The Green Party wants to implement green taxes, and this is a system where we tax bads like waste and pollution and resources, instead of taxing income and things that we need. Immigration is going to be extremely important to us in the future. Green Party wants to make skills and skills more transferable between countries. We want to have more mixed housing so that immigrants can have an opportunity to live in good neighborhoods. We want to have more social services so that they have an easier time adapting to our country, and we want to have sustainable development and industry for our local people. When they can't speak English or other languages, it's very hard to find a job, so we want to provide jobs where English proficiency is in such a high demand. Thanks.
So now we have the second person to present the opening statement is Mr. Mercer from Libertarian.
I'm honored for this opportunity to speak to all of you this evening, and I want to thank the sponsors of this event for allowing me to express my views. As a libertarian, I believe that liberty is the highest political end. In a society based on liberty, people would be free to make their own choices as long as they respect the rights of their neighbors. But the way our system works now is that people use the government to control their neighbors. For example, the government creates certification monopolies and licensing laws that make it hard for everybody, especially new immigrants, to find work. In a libertarian system, the government would be limited to providing a system of justice that protects individual rights, life and property, against violence and theft. Most of us live with an understanding of moral law, In the Bible, for example, one of the 10 Commandments calls on us to honor your father and mother. And we also have moral rules that ask us to honor the elderly and care for those in need. Whose responsibility is it to care for our elders or the needy? It's mine and yours. It's not the government's. So I would end government involvement in seniors' care, reduce taxes as low as possible, and encourage private systems of care. The government claims responsibility for everything. For seniors' care, for child care, for education, for health, for the safety of our water, for the environment, for what we do with our property, for what we do with our persons, for what we smoke. It even has a new Minister of Health Promotion to advise us on our diet and exercise. The government involves itself in every area of our lives and undermines the spiritual and voluntary structures of our society: family, moral teachings, independence, charity, the free market, and personal responsibility. How is it possible that the government is actually effective in all of these responsibilities? It's not possible. The government didn't prevent Walkerton. It didn't diagnose the Legionnaire's disease outbreak at Seven Oaks in a timely way. It struggles with healthcare, it struggles with education, but we rely on government to do all these things for us. Decades ago, the government undermined common law protections that protected property owners against pollution in order to allow companies to pollute. Now, in the name of the environment, it has taken control over large stretches of privately owned land. The latest interference is called the Greenbelt Act, which prevents landowners from building on their own property. Another interference in our lives is called the Smoke-Free Ontario Act, anti-smoking legislation which seeks to control whether people can smoke in private places of business and even in private clubs. These two acts typify the ever-increasing domination over our lives by the provincial government, an ever-increasing loss of personal sovereignty, and an aggression against our traditional liberties. If you oppose the direction Ontario is headed, vote Libertarian on November 24th. Please vote for Alan Mercer. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to tonight's debate. My name is Vas Balkisoon and I'm your Liberal candidate for November 24th provincial by-election. I have served this community as a city councillor for the past 17 years and live in this riding with my wife and 3 children. I have fought many municipal battles on behalf of my constituency. Example, I was the founding president of Scarborough Homeowners Alliance for Fair Taxation, where I led the fight that reformed the province's property tax system in 1998, which brought reduced taxes for all of Scarborough. I was also instrumental in assisting the local community in stopping a large funeral home from locating within our residential community at the Ontario Municipal Board. What you may not know is that these are the issues that started my political career, when many of my neighbors encouraged me to become their city councillor. The desire for fairness, public accountability, and the desire for structured government with clearly defined policies is what I strive for. You see, I came from a country where the government was unstructured. That is why I truly love the Canadian political system and why the Liberal government appeals to me. The Liberal government has a vision for seniors, healthcare services, environmental services, and immigrant services, all the issues that will be debated here tonight. It is a vision that I'm very proud of and I want to be part of. On November the 24th, make Scarborough Rouge River a part of that vision. Vote for Baz Balkisoon as your MPP. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming out to listen to us and to participate in this event. Most of you might have known me here because I'm one of you. And I really want to thank Yi Hong to take the leadership of ensuring the voice of Chinese community heard. Before we go to the polls, okay? I believe that public service is an extension of community service. And because of the leadership of John Tory and the absolute dismay I feel with the way the province won by Dalton McGuinty, I have decided to run at this by-election. I believe that the people of Scarborough Rouge River, which consists of about 30% Chinese Canadian population, and the Chinese community at large, need a voice in Queen's Park. A voice that will tell Dr. McGuinty that it is not okay to have no plan for energy, no plan for healthcare, no plan for senior services, no plan to improve the environment. To tell him that it's not okay to say we won't raise taxes and then levy the largest taxes increase in the history of Ontario. We need to tell the Liberals that it is not okay to make promises and then break them. As your representative, my goal is to take your concerns to Queen's Park as an opposition. What our riding does not need is a representative that will tell Dr. McGuinty that we are happy with the way things are going. When I go door to door, when I speak to people, they tell me that they're concerned about the cost of living, high taxes, energy prices, and they're becoming more and more difficult to pay the bills with no increase in salary. People are telling me that they're concerned about health care. The government keep producing studies but no solutions. The Liberal solution has been to make you pay for the services that used to be covered by OHIP. By electing a Liberal, you say it's okay to delist chiropractic services, physiotherapy, and eye care from the healthcare system. I'm Cynthia Lai, whom you all know and trust, and is a community volunteer who offers a breath of fresh air, energy, vision, and who have the heart and passion to fight for your many needs. I make this commitment to you. I will bring your concerns to Queen's Park and apply political pressure as an opposition to a government that has spent too much time ignoring them. Help me send a message to Dr. McGuinty. On November 24th, I ask for your vote.
Thank you for coming. I'm Sheila White, the NDP candidate, and I'm very proud to seek this office. It's the first time that we've had an empty seat in 20 years. Alvin Curling is gone now, and we get to pick someone new who we believe will best speak for us on the issues we care about. I care about this community. I was born here. I went to Scarborough schools right here in the riding. I'm now president of a very active community association in Scarborough Rouge River, and I've done all kinds of programs with youth and with my school to better our community and also the broader community. I have 20 years of political experience at the municipal level, and also I'm the only candidate with Queen's Park experience. I have 7 years working for NDP leader Howard Hampton at the Ontario legislature right now. So I'm very familiar with the issues, and I'd like to speak to some of them. I want to tell you that in my past experience, I've developed programs with seniors, with people with disabilities, actual programs to help ethno-cultural communities through race relations committees and those types of programs. And I've worked with youth and police and fire officials. I've done a lot, and it adds to my credibility as the best candidate that you could elect to represent you. You've asked me to talk about seniors, health, immigrant settlement, jobs, and environmental protection. So I'll take a little time to tell you a bit of each. But what we're really running here for is to tell Dalton McGuinty he has to start keeping his promises and making good on the commitments that he made 2 years ago when he asked for your vote. And in healthcare, this is particularly important because the Liberals said they would have public health care, but what they're actually giving us is privatized health care, P3 hospitals that cost 20% more and deliver far less inpatient care. Privatized hospitals take money directly out of patient care to give to the bankers, the investors, and the big corporations who will soon own our hospitals. And that's a serious broken promise. He also promised direct nursing hours for our seniors. I have here a survey that was given to him and Dalton McGuinty sent back during the last election. And it asked, would the government establish a minimum number of care hours for nursing home residents? So how many daily hours of care a senior would receive in a nursing home? And Dalton McGuinty said yes. Ontario Liberals are committed to reinstating the standards of care for nursing homes that were removed by the Conservative government, including minimum 2.25 hours of hands-on nursing care and 3 baths a week. Guess what? They haven't done it. There are no minimum nursing care standards for our seniors, and they do not get 3 baths a week. On the issue of seniors, we also need housing that allows them to live in our community independently. The McGuinty government promised to create housing and has not done so. They said they were going to create many thousands of units and they've only created a few hundred. Our seniors need to be close to transit and services, and as I said, in the heart of our community. So we need to do more to get Dalton McGuinty to honor his commitment.
So Ms. White, can you conclude in a few seconds?
In conclusion, I will work very hard for you. I have the experience and the knowledge of this community, its people and its needs, and I am the best qualified. I hope to get to the other topics later, but I want to say that I embrace this community and its diversity. I want to work with you, with Yihong and Monshong and all the other great agencies to provide better care for the Chinese seniors, and in the broader context, all of us working together at the grassroots to get results from the top. Thank you. Well, as I said in my opening remarks, this is a very important by-election for Scarborough. And if we want to be heard on these and the other important issues in our community, we must send a protest message to the government by electing a member of the opposition party. We have a majority Liberal government at Queen's Park, and we've seen that they've delivered less than the best for us and for other communities across Ontario, particularly in the area of affordable housing, where I mentioned they promised thousands of units and only delivered a couple of hundred. And also in the very important field of long-term care, which the Premier himself promised a new long-term care act with nursing standards and minimum care requirements. But as well, they are privatizing the long-term care industry, in that the best way to deliver health care is public dollars. Public investment in health care for all of us is the most efficient way to use the dollar, because we don't have to pay for somebody else's profits. We don't have to pay that extra 20% for the private lenders to give us the money to build the types of beds you're talking about. So we need to be very careful and very wise with the use of our vote this time, and not throw it away by electing just another Liberal.
The Green Party wants to build communities with different integrated types of housing. So that means that that housing for all price points and for all economic and for people from all economic needs can afford it within any given community. To help the most impoverished elderly people, we would want to give subsidies, or we'd want to give them a check of some sort so that they can afford to have these housing within a community of their choice. For long-term services, Green Party wants to provide more of those on a local community basis, where their neighbors and their friends will help provide services for them, and where the local community will be reflective of of whichever group is there. So if you have a Cantonese population, the service provision to those people will be more reflective of that of the community around it. That way there can be efficiencies and money can be spent more appropriately for the needs of a particular community, because every community is different. Thanks.
Government central planning can't provide these services properly. Central planning leads to shortages. Rent control should be abolished so that housing follows a free market. Thank you. Rent control should be abolished so that housing follows the free market. and there is actually incentive for new homes to be built. We should free up the economy and reduce taxes. So like I said, just to repeat, government central planning can't properly provide these services. It fails. Thank you.
I know Yihong, and I know I'm one of you, and I know how it is to wait for, and I know how much of fundraising they have to do. But by the way, I'm going to do a little bit commercial that they have tickets, raffle tickets here for the Dragon Ball. So for those of you, please, you can support Yihong and support our seniors. I've already purchased one booklet from Helen Lu, so if you can go out and get a ticket before you leave, that would be good. It's very important that we have senior homes that is in the community. And I think there are other things like life lease and other initiatives. If I'm elected, I will bring to the government. For instance, life lease condos, affordable planned communities. You know, when we do those planned communities for the seniors, then we will create job. You know, everything. Everybody's win-win situation. So we need to build more of those. And I think that you would not want to support a city councillor who has opposed the Yihong developments and who has also opposed one of the first projects for the Muslim community for senior homes. So please be very careful. When you exercise your vote on November 24th, you vote for someone who cares about the seniors, who cares about senior homes. Thank you.
None of the previous governments, in fact in the last 15 years, none of the senior levels of government has participated in bringing affordable housing to the market. In fact, it's only a year and a half ago that both the current provincial government and the federal government has come to an agreement to start funding affordable housing again. The City of Toronto and all the cities in Ontario are the ones that are implementing the affordable housing plan for the provincial government. Organizations, private sector are encouraged to apply to the city if they're the owners of lands to bring these affordable housing units onto the market as soon as possible. In fact, within the last year, the City of Toronto, I believe, has approved close to 1,000 of these units, which will take time to get a building permit, to get an architect, and to actually construct the units. But hopefully some of these will be on market and available to the public within a year or two. What the city has also done is asked private landlords to apply to the city to be able to provide market rent at CMHC level, and they will be funded by the city through this affordable housing program. With regards to my candidate on the left here taking a shot at me for not supporting Yihong, let me make it very clear. The first Yihong was built in my riding because of my initiative to help the organization find a piece of land. The second Yihong was a problematic one because land development is a complex issue. When you develop land, you must assess the application based on the surroundings. Does it fit into the neighborhood? What's the impact to and from the neighborhood? And it's what's the services available in the neighborhood? This particular facility don't have transit. It sits next to a dangerous rail yard. There's a huge residential development that's connected to it with no schools in the area, no parks in the area. Therefore, it does not fit.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the question. Services to the community are largely funded by the provincial government and delivered by the city. I can tell you that there are many senior support services in this neighborhood. In fact, the Scarborough Support Services for Seniors is in this neighborhood. The Agincourt Community Services is located in this area. All of these organizations receive federal funding, they receive provincial funding, and they receive City of Toronto funding to deliver their services to the seniors in the area. So seniors that are having difficulty with meals or transportation, doctor's appointments, etc., they can find help by contacting one of these two agencies that are located in the area. With regards to the Chinese community, There are several organizations assisting the Chinese community. In fact, I think the 4 of them that have organized tonight's event that is listed on the agenda are also recipients of both provincial, federal, and city funding.
As we all grow older, one day we become seniors. So this is a very, very important issue for me, and I am committed to do anything I can to fight for the funding for all these services, because I know how hard it is for some of those organizations like CICS and some of the other TOA, I don't know what the English name is. It's very, the funding is not very much, but if I elected, I will fight for all this funding. And if we're ever going to build some new locations for the senior homes, I think I will commit, and I have the will to commit to work together and make it happen. You know, anything. If we want to commit it, there's a will, there's a way. And I'm committed to work together with the community and to make sure that these are planned communities, that everything you have, under one roof, you can have all the facilities, then there's no need to travel anywhere. It's just like a planned community, like in Hong Kong. They have a lot of those planned communities with libraries, with facilities, with recreation. You know, if I get elected, I will be pushing these things so that all of us would have a very good retirement. Thank you.
To lower costs for everyone, I would open up competition to transit services of all kinds that reflect consumer needs. There should be no special subsidies for the TTC or similar transit services. And instead of using taxes to pay for roads, I think we should reduce taxes and let municipalities create fee services for road use, so that those who use cars pay more than those who use bicycles, who pay more than pedestrians. And I think this would lower costs for everybody. Thank you.
The Green Party has several approaches to make transportation services a lot better for elderly people. First, in our new communities, it'd be a lot more densely constructed, and there would be a lot more mixed land use, so seniors would not have to depend as much on public transportation and other kinds of transportation. They'd be able to walk to all the facilities they need. In existing residential areas, this is obviously a lot harder. What the Green Party is just doing is increasing public transportation. As far as this riding goes, the Green Party and myself right now have a plan to put in light rail system. So that is one way that seniors in this area will become more connected with the rest of the city itself. To help the light rail system work more, the bus system is going to have to change a little bit, and that will make, obviously, it will make the bus routes a lot quicker and a lot more frequent and a lot more coverage for the area. As far as the local community initiatives to help seniors become transported, the Green Party supports local initiatives as well. So we'd want to give funds and support to local groups that want to provide transportation services for the elderly and for any other people that have transportation issues.
The question was about how seniors are going to get around, and transit has always been a big problem for Scarborough. Now, the McGuinty Liberals and the federal Liberals promised gas tax dollars would flow so that we would see improvements in our transportation system, and we haven't seen those improvements. And you can compare that then to the NDP in 1994, when we were going to build 4 subway lines. 75% funding being contributed to build 4 brand new subway lines that would be up and operating by now and would have vastly improved the service that we have today. The reason that we're not seeing the action and that nothing's happening is because we don't have that voice at Queen's Park like mine that's going to bring these issues forward day after day after day, reminding the government that they have promises to keep and that the people in Scarborough deserve better than second-rate transit. If we had those gas tax dollars, and if they were really coming to us, then we would be able to improve Wheel-Trans. We'd be able to add other bus routes, or more of them, into the areas that were cut. And let's remember, it was the Conservatives that killed those subway lines. It was the Conservatives that gutted the percentage funding available to municipalities. So what we need is a progressive voice that understands the value of transit and can actively lobby for that against a government who is not delivering currently.
Well, as we know, the Green Party supports community-based initiatives like that one. But there are some problems with what you had just said a second ago. You were saying that a lot of people are coming to Scarborough area. Well, Green Party doesn't think that's sustainable, because as long as you have a large population coming into one area, you're always going to have a service lag, because you can't raise the funds until the people come, but you have to provide services before you get the funds, right? So Green Party wants to help create more sustainable immigration so that populations can choose to live in other communities and still be provided services. So right now, a lot of people are coming here specifically for those services. The Green Party would want to help provide those services in other areas, and so that way some of the stress that's being placed upon on the NCC would be spread out, so it wouldn't be such a strain on any particular one. Green Party wants to help do this, well, not just for any particular group, but for all the major groups that are immigrating. That way, it's just done a lot better, and there's not so much panic to always get funding, and and that way, more care can be given to the people, because there's more resources and more times to adapt to changing demographics.
Just to repeat some of the statements and ideas I made in the opening statement, I don't believe the government should be involved in things like seniors' care. I believe it undermines the structures of our society outside the government, such as personal responsibility, the family, and I would recommend that people set up private welfare systems for poor seniors, and I feel that this would be healthier for our society. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think this is one of the areas that the federal government and the provincial government is kind of lacking behind. The right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing. On one hand, they say, we welcome you as immigrants, but on the other hand, they're not supporting you in terms of your services. So I think this is just the Liberals have been all talks and no action in making sure these supports are in place. And we're the only province that has no immigration agreement with the federal government, despite taking in 60% of immigrants to Canada. About half of the 130 immigrants coming to Ontario settle in Toronto. So this is a big thing. And the McGuinty government has been telling us since February 2004 that an agreement with the federal government to provide the resources we need is coming. But they have announced it 8 times, and still the waiting has not been, the agreement has not been signed. So our community is made up of hardworking people like you and I, and families, and we deserve a government and work just as hard. So by sending me to Queen's Park, I will demand action right away and send McGuinty a message that this is not acceptable. And on a personal basis, I'll use my network to make sure that everyone got a place to go as your MPP. Everyone will have a place to hold your nice meetings and your recreation. Thank you.
Ontario, under this Premier, has signed a deal with the federal government to help new immigrants get settled in Ontario. In fact, the fees that we receive from the federal government will go from $800 to $3,400 per immigrant. This money will help the new immigrants settle into Ontario. Unfortunately, my federal conservatives are blocking this particular transfer of funds at the present time. So I'm hoping after this election, my candidate here who says she has networks can help us get that money come into Ontario so we can help them. Along with that, Ontario and the Canada government has an immigration settlement agreement that is currently being discussed. The federal government has agreed to increase funding to Ontario that will equal to about $320 million per year annually, started in 2009, 2010. We hope that agreement will be signed, and we hope that the federal government will keep their part of the deal. Thank you.
Province of Quebec, you might be interested to know, negotiated a funding agreement for new immigrants a long time ago, many years ago. Dalton McGuinty and the Liberals were very slow to go and start negotiating this deal. But I wanted to point out that when you cut public budgets, as the Conservatives did and the Liberals are continuing to do, when you cut like that, more and more does fall on the community groups like Judy's to do, and more on individual families to do. And the NDP is the party that believes in public funding for grassroots organizations. We had an agency called the Ontario Anti-Racism Secretariat, and it was responsible for funding such programs and providing seed funding, as well as having a very clear signal from the very top of the government that we will not tolerate racial discrimination or any kind of discrimination. So we would reinstate the Ontario Anti-Racism Secretariat, and that would provide groups like the NCCC some seed money. I went to San Francisco. I was very impressed with what they do with their seniors. And they have street-level accessible services that are readily available and very widely used. In my community, I work with the children and the youth who have the language skills. They bring their grandparents to our events and they become part of the larger community as well.
That's a very, very good question. When I first came over here as an immigrant some 30 years ago, I was trying to look for a job, and they asked me, do you have any Canadian experience? I said, no. Well, I'm sorry, we only hire people that have Canadian experience. And I just asked them, how am I going to have a Canadian experience when nobody will offer me the first job? So this issue is really in my heart because I've been there. And I think as an opposition, the PC, the Conservative government, has formed a skilled immigrant task force, and the report will be ready very soon, and it will be given to the Liberals and asked them to consider as the report. And on a personal level, I mean, if I'm going to be elected, I will bring the boys to Queen's Park by giving them some innovation, some new ideas of how to deal with this, not just funding, you know, I mean, where's the fund, you know? So what I can ask them to do is, I will propose that maybe they should give the employers some incentive for hiring new immigrants. And, you know, they may have some skill training, and then it will subsidize the pay so that everybody can get a job. Thank you.
As a libertarian, I would address this from the point of view of abolishing the type of restrictions we have in our economy that we're so used to, it's hard to imagine getting rid of them. But immigrants are kept out of the professions by government monopoly certification agencies. They're kept out of work by licensing laws and fees, and by minimum wage restrictions, which keep the unskilled unemployed. All of these restrictions go against the idea of individual liberty. We should have economic freedom. Thank you very much.
The Green Party wants to try and help new immigrants get jobs by putting more of an emphasis back on industrial work. Industrial work is high paying, and it usually requires less English proficiency than other types of work, like in like a call center or a bank or something like that. So those kinds of opportunities go a long way to help new immigrants adjust to the culture and learn the language, while at the same time enjoying a high standard of living that allows them to do such things. What many of you probably know already, Honda and Toyota are both talking about building new automobile plants into Ontario. What some of you may not know is that the province is, in most of those cases, actively engaged in trying to attract those places here. So for instance, they offer subsidies, they offer tax-free incentives so that they'll locate the plant here. If I'm elected, I'll work hard to get those kinds of plants located in Scarborough area, where we have a definite need for boost to local employment. As far as people that were skilled back in their homelands, Green Party wants to work towards making professional bodies and unions more receptive to those people by offering work programs where people can come up to speed while they're working in the industry that they're used to. And we also have programs in the medical profession, for instance, where people can start doing things that don't require so much English proficiency, and then they can, as they learn the language, have more responsibilities and more frontline action with patients. Thanks.
We need to prod the McGuinty Liberals to do better. That's what this by-election is all about. It's about sending someone to Queen's Park who's going to fight for the issues that you care about. And in terms of jobs and employment, certainly one of the biggest barriers is the requirement of Canadian experience. And also the area we need to push the Premier on is the jobs accreditation and recognizing foreign trained professionals. This was one of their key promises in the platform, and it's just not happening because there's a vacuum at the top. At Queen's Park, as I said, I'm there every day, so I get to witness this vacuum of vision and leadership. So we're not seeing the programs come forward, and we're not seeing the campaign commitments fulfilled. On a personal level, I set up the first program in Toronto in the 80s, which helped high school students get management trainee positions with some key Toronto companies. And that was done by personally approaching the companies and asking them to make positions available that had a future, that weren't just dead-end, retail, service sector, minimum wage jobs, but actually would allow those young people to live out their fullest potential. And that's the loss here, is that we have so many skilled citizens who are working beneath their skill level, and it only makes sense to make sure that this post-secondary education is more affordable for the young, and that the skill training and the accreditation is quickly available for those who have something to offer to our community and to our province. So I would be a voice for those types of initiatives, and also community economic development strategies that would help our small businesses that are really fueling the Scarborough Rouge River economy.
The McGuinty government is committed to making it easier for foreign trained professionals to get accredited in Ontario. In fact, in January 2004, the government committed $26 million over 3 years to help foreign trained professionals. This money is going to go towards expanding job-specific language training, bridge training opportunities for over 3,000 internationally trained individuals per year, pilot programs to help train international medical graduates strengthen their communications, patient, and improve awareness of medicine. It also includes partnering with the professional engineers of Ontario to provide better opportunities. Along with that, this last summer, the government invested $4.1 million to newcomer settlement programs. Those programs include day-to-day issues like obtaining a health card and driver's license. It provides for group orientation on topics like Canadian law, education, general settlement assistance, and services that facilitates finding employment, which is, you were asking on the question. So I have to say to you that the government is doing what it can within its budget, but if the federal Conservatives will allow that immigration money to flow, we will do a lot more.
Thank you for your question. I'm against government subsidizing education in general and deciding what is best for everybody else. It's inappropriate for many people, actually, higher education, and people should be able to decide what they prefer. And in fact, maybe some people object to paying for public education for their young children and would prefer to use the property tax amount to pay for their own form of education. So in response, I would open up the economy. I would end the regulations on minimum wage, on business, on regulations that interfere with business, and would make it easier for young people to work, to start their own business, and to pay for their education, whether it's higher education or some other form of skill development. Thanks very much.
As I said earlier, we have to train our next generation so that we can build our leaders and build a very, very good economy in province. And the Liberals have promised as part of the election platform that they would freeze the tuition fee for a minimum of 2 years. And Minister Bentley just recently announced that the freeze will be lifted. I think the Liberal government is creating barriers towards post-secondary education rather than eliminating them as they promised. And they're once again ignoring the middle class. On a personal level, my son is in school, in university first year, so I think I would support the freezing of the fee if it's feasible for if they can find the money. I will support that. If you send me there, I will make sure that they will do it, but it has to be feasible.
The McGuinty government has invested $6.2 billion in post-secondary education. This is the largest investment ever in post-secondary education in over 40 years. Let me tell you what it will do. It provides increased access to financial aid for over 135,000 low and middle income students. It includes non-repayable grants that will cut tuition by up to 50% for students from families that need financial assistance. But on top of that, let me give you a personal opinion of a longer problem. The Conservative government removed grade 13 from our schools. So now students are arriving at the university level ill-prepared. Long ago, when I first came to Canada, a Bachelor of Arts program was a 3-year program. It's now a 4-year program. What the Conservative government has done is downloaded the cost of higher education at the university level onto parents. And that's what you're seeing today, is that long impact that has now come back to bear on all of us. This government is committed to improving education. We've only been in office 2 years, and over time you'll definitely see it improve.
Yes, the NDP would freeze tuition. We've been fighting with McGuinty at Queen's Park now over the fact that those tuitions are going to go up again because students, as much as we hear the billions is being invested, they don't take any comfort from the fact of hearing that their tuition is going to go up because they know how expensive it is to go to school. They know there's no affordable housing. They know there's no rent control. And they know it costs more for everything from gasoline in their car to hydro, to keep the lights on, to burn the midnight oil while they're studying to be our best and brightest. In Ireland, university post-secondary education is free, and we believe for New Democrats that a long-term goal should be to offer free of charge post-secondary education to any student so that regardless of income, they can get the best opportunities. And then we can start to really boast that we have the best educated and highest skilled workforce. And that in turn will attract all those companies to come here because we really are the best trained and the brightest. Because we have made those investments in our students. Because right now, a student or a family can find out that after university they're carrying $40,000 worth of debt. That's not unheard of. Now, another problem and something that needs to be fixed is those professional fees like lawyers and doctors and business programs need to be re-regulated because the Conservatives deregulated and pushed the fees through the youth. So now that only the people who can say they have the income or have wealthy parents can afford to be lawyers and doctors and business administrators. So we need to re-regulate those fees. We need to freeze the tuition with a view of bringing the cost ever downward.
Well, as many of you, I am a student, if you guys didn't know that. I'm going to UFT at Scarborough campus, which is just very close to here. And before that, I went to Laurentian University, which is up north. At both schools, there are fairly high tuition fees, and book costs were very expensive. And additional to that, public transportation costs a lot of money for students, especially the ones that don't have cars, because they're dependent on transportation systems more. As far as the local transportation systems here go, they offer very little support for students in fare reductions, and that makes up a big chunk. There's lots of people that spend more than $10 a day on transportation, and if they have to go to school 5 days a week, that's $50 per week. Green Party supports reducing tuition fees and eventually to zero. The reason for that is because we want to attract high-tech industries that produce well-paying jobs. Another initiative that Green Party wants to do is we want to provide more spaces for trade schools and to encourage people to enter those kinds of fields more. Because those kinds of fields help people with low income, especially because after the first or second year of training, they go for their apprenticeships where they can get paid. So that would help a lot of people from lower economic status afford to have well-paying jobs and higher education. Thanks.